All right, welcome to another Stampscapes Live today. We're going to finish off this stamp sketch. It's a half-page scene, landscape, and we're going to do it in golden tones. So we have a lot of golden colors here, ochre, I don't know, not quite ochre, but we'll try this out. And I think I want to try some of the glitter on some of these trees in here just to give it a little bit of extra pop. This is a semi-gloss cardstock, and I think I'm going to use the Cloud Alto Cumulus right up here in the sky. But let's lay down some tones and let's see if I can get the kind of the base color scheme down quickly so I can spend more time on the I don't know, the little detailed types of touches, which are always my I don't know, favorite things to do in scenes. Okay, so I'm going to be coloring with some dye-based inks here. I'm looking to see if I have any yellow here on my desk. With some re-inker fluid, that would make things go a lot faster. I have brilliant yellow. That's a little bit dark. I have some pale orange here. That'll be a good one. When you have this much area to color in, it's so much easier to do it if you have some re-inker fluid. It just goes by so much faster. I mean, look at this whole, it's like a half, it would be like a quarter-page card here, practically. Just done in a matter of seconds here with some re-inker fluid on. You can use whatever kind of applicator you want. This one just happens to be a paper towel. Okay, just something nice and absorbent that's going to hold a lot of ink for you. I'm getting a little bit of smudging here by going into some of this black with so much liquid like this. But that will be okay because we're going to go a lot darker anyway here. Hello, Deidre, how are you? How's everything going over there? How's the stamping coming along? All right, I was thinking about you guys the other day. I thought I should check up on you guys and see how things are going. Let's see here. Let's go into the trees. I'm thinking about what colors I want to kind of add down in this section here. And I want to retain some of that white up there because I want to have some kind of white special effects in here with that mist. So it's important to keep some of the white of the paper intact. So meaning sky area and reflection area. I mean, you can leave some of it in the trees too, but the trees will largely be colored in here. All right, kind of filling in, leaving some areas. This is just the first color, so I do get quite a bit of coverage with this. It's with the darker tones. I don't do quite as much coverage in most situations, just so that we can kind of model values and tones. But I think that should be good right there. So, again, re-inker fluid. All right. So if Lynn's watching, re-inker fluid for your base coat. It makes it so much faster. Okay, so this is just a really pale color right now. But remember, it's not just coloring there. It is kind of saturating a little bit so that it's a little bit more moist, so that when we apply our other colors on top, we're kind of going in wet into moist as opposed to wet into dry. Wet into dry doesn't spread as easily as going into kind of a moister surface, okay? All right, let's see here. Let's go back to this color right here, just your straight Oh, kind of neutral yellow. Neutral meaning, it's not like a reddish yellow or something like that that has a little bit of red in it. So on this yellow right here, you can add, red to it and becomes the oranges, or you can add green to it and becomes, yellow greens. If you add kind of a green into like a reddish green, it's a little bit more kind of muddy in terms of the color blend. All right, let's see. I'm kind of streaking a little bit lighter when it comes to those trees right there, though, because that's where I have a little bit of smearing. I had re-inked my black pad before I was doing the stamp sketches the other night, so it was like a lot of ink on my impressions. So there's, a decent amount of that ink kind of sitting on the surface of the paper after it dries, okay? I usually don't work with my pads that juicy, but I thought, we're going to be doing some stamp sketches, so I'm going to be doing a lot of applications of, just the images, just stamping out the images, and I didn't want to have to re-ink during the live stream, so everything's a little bit juicier. Today is Sunday, and I stamped this out on Friday night. All right, so there's a little bit of a brighter tone in there. And again, we're retaining that lighter area right in there. Usually it's people, people have an easy time retaining some areas of lightness with their first few colors. It's usually when they get into their darker tones, it's like, oh my God, I lost my lightness or something like that, because they're kind of applying those colors at the same rate, those darker tones, than they did with the lighter ones, and it's just starting off with a darker tone, so sometimes it fills in these lighter areas that they've developed and retained through the first, few colors. So I always tell people in my classes, when I saw them getting into the mid-tones, the darker tones, it's like, okay, now see this area right in here, don't go into there, retain that area of lightness with those darker tones. And also it's getting a little bit wetter, so the darker tones spread farther into their scenes than the lighter ones did. And it's just because the paper is kind of wet and you're starting to kind of get into this area of, it's never super saturated, but you're kind of moving in that direction with more and more moisture that builds up on the paper. On the paper and kind of in the pulp of the paper too. Hello, Sharita, how are you? Busy with church orders for Christmas. Sounds good. Okay, let's move into brown. Do I want to jump into that one? That one's a pretty big jump in value from this color to this one like that. I don't know if I have an intermediate in between there. I could start moving into a little bit of a reddish tone, or we can go into a little bit of an orange. But let's see what this one looks like here, just by jumping. I'm looking at my pads here. Let's do move in. Or I tell you what, here, I saw that brilliant yellow here. I'm just going to go like this. I'm just going to put a little drop of brilliant yellow on there. Brilliant yellow is where it starts to move into a little bit of an orangish tinge. And let's bring that in. Yeah, you can see that right there. That's not going to be quite as bright when it dries on here, but you can see the difference in tone. A little bit of that orangish tinge. Okay. I'm bringing some of this into my larch trees in here. I'm gonna handle a lot of the coloring of my trees too with colored pencils, alcohol markers, and such. Okay, but I want to get a little of this tone down in there before then, just to expedite the entire process, because I get a lot more coverage with an applicator that's can't even say this, that's that wide, rather than going with like a little colored pencil or something like that and coloring all those in like so. All right, okay, now let's try this brown right there. So if you have some distress inks, your walnut stain or something like that, those would be excellent choices to move into after your whatever kind of yellows you might have. Okay, look at that right there. It doesn't look quite like this brown right here, but it's because we're blending it right over the top of all these yellows right here. So it's a little bit of it's a fusion of that brown and those other tones, but see, it kind of looks a little bit more earthy looking. But nice and warm and rich and deep. Okay, this is this is your semi-gloss cardstock, so it's fairly absorbent. But even with an absorbent paper like this, if you blend these colors like this and lay them down, these transparencies like this, you can get a really rich looking and deep saturated appearance to your end result, okay? All right, now it's starting to build up a little bit, so what I'm doing is you can see I'm tapping a little bit more just to build up these beads of ink on the surface, because if I just wipe into it, I might be wiping off some of that ink that's been applied as opposed to transferring it. So just adjust accordingly, whatever your movement of your applicator, your application rate maybe. You just kind of see what's kind of developing. Sometimes it looks like, oh my God, nothing's applying at all because we've built up so much ink on there. So sometimes you have to kind of let this sit and dry for, a couple minutes before you go on to your next color and start building that up a little bit, because the surface is just too wet. You can even see my fingers right there where I've touched into that, and I've just removed ink right in those spaces right there. So you can see the amount of saturation right in there. All right, now, after that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some of these textures right over the top of it, but we'll do it in a color within the color scheme, okay? Now you can do this in black or something like that. It would give you a much more dramatic look, but I like to have typically my sky figures, with a lot of them, integrated a little bit more into the color scheme, because your color scheme of your compositions, it's usually dictated by kind of the type of lighting that's coming from the sky. So I make my sky figures that color, because it's supposed to be like, golden light that's shining down on this, this situation here. So I'll have this in that color scheme. Now, some of it might not show up because it's just too dark in there, and I've already added brown in there. So, I can go with, like a darker brown in those darker areas like that, okay? Let's do this too, okay? So I stamp this way, okay? Smaller kind of clouds down at the bottom, heavier ones up top. It doesn't mean that if you do it this way, it's like, oh my God, I made a mistake. But this is kind of like closer to us right here. And as it moves off into the horizon, it's like farther back in the distance. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mirror that down here in this water section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this around like that. Same thing if it was like a cumulus cloud, billowy or something like that. You stamp it right side up. And then when you stamp it in the reflection area, you flip it around and you stamp it upside down in this area. Okay, so let's do this. And we'll go right in here. Now I'm going to blend this together too after I do this image. And I have kind of plans for this area too in terms of what I'm going to be stamping down here. So I'm not going to do too much right in here right now. in this area. I'm going to leave a little space open. I've been thinking about using specifically this paddle border right here. I think she would look really great paddle boarding right in here, like going off into that direction. But we'll see if I still want to do that, you know, by the time I get to that point. Okay, so let's go back in here. It's a little bit busy in here, to say the least, with those textures. So I'm going to go in, and those, the alto cumulus is still a little bit moist. It's set up okay. But I'm going to go a little bit delicate here. Otherwise, I'm going to be wiping off all those textures in there. So, but I want to bring in, I want to blend it in a little bit, or a lot more. Like that, okay. You can see that streak right across in there. I'm inking this up, but I'm probably dragging some of the impression as well. All right, see how it's getting there? Build up those layers, Lynn, and get them nice and juicy. Hello, Bill, you're back. Hey, you're not asleep yet. When I was in the previous live stream today, I was sitting there thinking, maybe, you know, I said, okay, good night, everyone. But I mean, it was probably dark where you were, right? Already? When I signed off. Over here it was like 2:30 p.m., but I was thinking, well, if it's like 4:30 or whatever, 5:30 it is for you, you know, it's probably dark. All right, here's some dark brown, like that, okay? So we're getting from a little bit darker, and we're transitioning lighter on the horizon right there, okay? We'll do some of this too right in here. I'm kind of angling this off, so I'm just getting kind of the top portion of it right in here. Just because I want it a little bit darker, right around where these taller trees are. Okay. And we're varying values again too. Okay, like so. It's getting pretty deep in terms of the textural surface area. And I can tell too, it's when I stamp this ink out right here, I can tell if it's kind of shinier, you know, in terms of the drying rate. So it's more indicative of how wet it is underneath there. So that being said, you know, if I go and add in some tone in here, you know, and if I want to retain that texture, I better, you know, be, you know, mindful of how wet the impression is still. So let's go in here and let's blend in or add in some of this darker tone like this, and see, like that, we're starting to get that kind of more sunsetty twilight look by making that darker around it, you know, especially the left and right corners here. Oh, so Bill, from the I ended up going with the silver border on this one. We finished this one off in a live stream earlier today. That is a glow-in-the-dark moon right there. It looks pretty cool when I turn off the lights. It's kind of, if it's in a dim room, you know, so you can still see the scene, you know, in a completely dark room, you're just going to be able to see the, you know, the moon glowing, but it looks pretty good in there, I thought. That glow-in-the-dark moon. It really didn't fit, but I really wanted to, I kind of forced it into the scene. just because I really like that whole glow-in-the-dark moon type of thing in there. I like light coming out of my scenes, so it was like, you might be able to use that one and, that glow-in-the-dark moon in there, but it barely fit in that space because I wasn't really planning on using it in there when I stamped the scene out. Okay, let's anchor down the objects a little bit more with some darker tones. So I'm putting darker tones right along this shoreline. I'm not going to put as many right here because it's kind of lighter in this area. In this type of scenario, you'd have, this water's edge. You'd have some of these images probably reflecting down in this area, but I didn't do that so I can fit more imagery onto the set, so I just kind of remove the reflections. So that being said, what I do is I just darken in the area underneath it. There are ways you can get those reflections in there just by stamping the image upside down, but I didn't really do that here. All right, I think that is it for now with our background tones. 20 minutes, that's not too bad in terms of, a half-page scene with, I don't know, how many colors do we use? Brilliant yellow's also in there, and the pale orange, so that was 5 tones, I guess, that were in there. And I'll probably bring a little bit of, I was going to do the black later, but let's just do it right now because this page is a little bit moist, so the black is going to be easier to blend in while this surface is a little bit wet, and black is the darkest color, of course, that we'll be using. So let's do that right now. I can really get this to apply and blend very nicely. It's not so much black, but it's kind of like a, a darker brown the way that I'm using it. Just kind of using like a grayscale application of it, so it's kind of like that amount of black right there. Yeah. Thanks, Bill. Hello, Military Mom. How are you? Happy holidays to you. Hope everyone's having a nice holiday season. It's going fast here. It's like, oh my gosh. I always say that we need to start kind of decorating for Christmas earlier, but because by the time we get everything up, it's like Christmas is here, and it's like, we leave our stuff up, a lot of times through like January though, but it's always a little bit better if it's kind of before Christmas. All right, there we go. There's the black on there, okay? So you go a little bit darker in whatever areas, okay? It's usually like my skies, and the lighter areas of your card will look by contrast, okay? And I've retained a little bit of that white in there, not too much, so we'll see if I want to add in some, the white pigment ink afterwards, if it'll look kind of weird. Usually if you just keep it even a little tiny bit of that white of the paper, when you add in, if you do, some of this type of thing, as kind of like glowing, soft, lit mist, fog, whatever, in the scene, it'll kind of blend in and make sense visually, as long as, you've had some of that white, again, from the, in this case, the original paper. Okay, let's go in and add in some other tones here. These scenes right here, this Nature 41 is all about these larches. And I want to go with some really bright trees. My trees usually aren't the brightest things in the scene in the past, but with these, the fall foliage types of imagery, they can really, they probably should be kind of the most intense images in the scene in terms of color brightness, okay? So I'm going to use some, I'll go in with my alcohol pens first. I don't even know if I'll use my colored pencils in here because we already have really filled in a lot of these trees just with the dye-based inks. I might not even have to use those colored pencils. Or I don't know if they'll, you know, maybe more specifically, I don't know if they'll even show up in here. All right, that's one color of alcohol. Ink, let's see. These look just about the same. This one looks a little like, I don't know, this one's like a little bit lighter. It's probably a little bit duller. Yeah, it's a little bit duller. I don't know if it really makes a difference here. Let's bring some of this down here in this water area too. Yeah, it's a lot brighter, isn't it? There's a little bit more of a glow in here with the alcohol pen as an extra layer. I need to be careful in here. I need to take my own advice and not remove or eradicate my white light source. Okay. Okay, now this alcohol shouldn't really blend or smear any of your dye base inks that we've already laid down, but the dye base inks are a little bit wet, so it is kind of dragging through some of that black in there, I could see. It's not really a big deal because, I don't know, you can just kind of blend it in from a textural standpoint, but I am removing some of that black that I just laid down in there, I can see. I'm doing this just to get that dye-based ink off the tip there. I'm not someone that really worries about staining my tips, you know. It's just as long as it's not transferring afterwards. I don't want to be using that yellow pen and it's giving me kind of this, you know, polluted yellow or something like that, but it usually doesn't. All right, that looks pretty decent. Let's go into, I'm kind of surprised at how much brighter that alcohol was for that. So I'm going to bring in a little bit more of this. This one's a little bit more of a orangish yellow, so let's bring some of that into here. These trees. I'm not coloring the whole thing uniformly because I want to have some variation of lighting on those trees. Okay, that rooftop is a little bit anemic. I'll get to that with some other color up top. This brownish gray is one of my favorite pens, but it's like, yeah, I guess it sat around. It was, yeah, it's a little bit dry still. See, like on the side of the cabin here, I can fill in some of that. I'll leave a little bit of just a little peekaboo area of that white of the paper up top there. So like it's like reflecting some of that lighting in that area. How about this down in my shadows? Ah, you can't see any of this at all. This pen's a little bit too dry, so it's not transferring on there. Okay, let's go in with... Everything's all kind of the yellow tones, goldens, ochres, and things like that. So let's go in and bring in... Let's start introducing a little bit more color variation in here. I'll bring in a little bit of yellow, green in here. So this is a little bit of a kind of a light olive. Okay, this area down here is going to get some other things too, so don't worry about that right now. Oh, is it due? Is your set due to arrive tomorrow, Jeannie? Let me see. When were those mailed out? Was it Friday? Is it up there already? Hopefully. Hopefully you get it. I don't know if you've been tracking it. And I figured mail's going to be moving a little bit slower now with the holidays. All right, so there's a little hint of some green tones in there. Let's do this too. Let's bring some of this green down here, like some of this is, you know, potentially reflecting down in here. About like so. Oh, okay. I'm looking at where are my kind of yellow greens? Let's go with this one right here. Kind of a lime green. That. Okay, something like this. It's kind of shading too, you know, we're going over. This is a really, really light color, but when you overlap it with so many other colors, you know, it can start to, kind of shade areas of the piece as well. Okay. All right, now I think I want to flank some areas off in here with a little bit more trees. This is a big open area right down here. We have all that, all of those shapes in there. The dominant shapes are right up there in that midground section. You know, we have foreground, midground, and background. I think I want to add these in here, okay, at this point in time. I didn't want to add it in the beginning because I know it would take a little bit of time to dry, so I figured, okay, let's get all our colors laid down here, and then I'll just stamp right over the top of it. And I know I wasn't going to be toning in so dark in here to where I can't really just stamp this right over the top of it and have this appear as though it's, you know, the closest thing to us. The thing that's going through my mind is I'm kind of wondering if I should stamp this one in the dye-based inks or if I should do it in like a StazOn ink. I think I'm going to stay with the dyes. We have a lot of alcohol laid down in here too, so I don't know. Let's just see how it works. And I haven't done the colored pencils yet either, so if I was trying to go stamp over colored pencils, you know, with that waxy, you know, consistency that they have, or whatever, composition, I don't know if these would go over the top of it, you know, just water-based ink. But let's see. Okay, now the reason why I'm thinking about maybe not doing StazOn is because I'm thinking, well, StazOn's a pretty thin ink. Maybe if I re-ink the pad or something like that, I can just go right over the top of it. And I think that would work, but I'll just see how this one goes here. I just don't want to stamp this out and, you know, I'm stamping it out and I lift it up and it's like a 50% gray or something like that. Okay, let's have a little bit of a extended impression time with this to have a better chance of you know, the ink fully transferring onto the surface. I mean, at some point in time it's probably overkill, but yeah. If it does stamp out a little bit lighter, then we'll try it with StazOn. Okay, that came out dark enough. It's pretty dark. It's a little bit lighter. It's probably like a 90, I don't know, 2% gray or something like that. In the background, it's probably like 97. I used to think this Marvy black was like 100% black, you know, in terms of, you know, as far as dye-based inks went. But then I forgot what I was doing. I was doing something. I don't know if it was the VersaFine Claire or something like that, but it's like, oh, that ink is like way, you know, darker than any of the dye-based inks I was using. Okay, let's go on this side. I think this side has a little bit more ink, you know, in the background than that side did. So let's hold this one down a pretty good amount of time right here. Yeah, the golden tones should work pretty good, I thought, Jeannie. I thought because I'm going to be doing all these trees and those golden tones, I thought let's go gold all the way around. Let's put let's do that golden hour kind of sunsetty twilight time scenario in the sky and in the water, and we'll see how this looks here. Okay, like that. And let's see if I still have room for her. Okay, let's do this right here. A little bit more right here. Usually when I don't know, I think when I usually do these types of things in my foregrounds, if it's like one image, I'll use it like twice on one side, just so that it doesn't look so similar from one side to the next. So we'll go like this. So see, this silhouette changes a little bit, from this side, okay? So it's not so, repetitive like that. Or I'll throw in like a, one of the leafless pines or something like that, to throw like a dead tree right in there. In fact, I should use those leafless pines with these new trees here. I think they'd work really well. All right, so we have that right there. That looks better, huh? Especially with these ones right down in here. It really created a huge amount of contrast between here and here. You say, hey, so you did all that toning underneath there. It's, kind of lost. Well, yeah, you can't really see it anymore, but I don't know. It adds to the overall whatever richness, and it's underneath there, so the spirit of it is still in there. Okay, let's see. Do I want her in there? See, everything kind of changes every time you kind of add something in here. It's the composition, looks a little bit different. There's a little bit of smaller one. Okay, let me take this. I want to see what this looks like here. It'll help me to visualize it. Yeah, I think she looks pretty good right there. Everything's kind of moving in this direction, and so is she's kind of facing in that direction. Okay, I would stamp her later, but I think I better do it now, because if I add in any kind of colored pencil in here, like I said, that waxy coating, I don't think I'm going to get a very good impression of this image over the top of colored pencil touches and things like that, if I do add in some colored pencil in there. Okay, let's see right here. I think I laid down some alcohol ink underneath here, so let's let that dye-based ink kind of stain as much as possible and transfer. Yeah, okay, there we go, like that. It makes for a pretty strong focal point, especially with these flanked off like that. I put that paddle behind there. I didn't want to put her... If I went over a little bit, I thought, she's going to be like way too... I don't know. It was a little bit too central for me. It was like minute little things. All right. I need to be careful right in here. This is like really kind of wet. I don't know if you can see it right there. You see all that kind of glistening ink on the tops of those black trees still. This is where I usually I don't know, I'm holding my paper and it's like I'm touching all this and I start transferring that everywhere. Maybe I'll start working on some of it like this. I'll work on it upside down. like that. But let's try to bring in some little extra textures. Like I said, I don't know if this is really gonna matter. Okay, applying it down here, I can tell the paper is really sealed off with those alcohol inks. So I think it's applying right in here where there aren't any alcohol. But see this, I can kind of refine my applications in here a little bit. You know, where I'm like streaking in there with that, that damp paper towel. Sometimes I don't get it, very smoothly. So I can kind of build out like this. There's like a harsh streak of yellow across in there. So I'm just kind of softening that up a little bit, because I can go for a really specific application of the this color right here. This area right in here is looking a little dull, so I can warm it up a little bit like that. But yeah, some areas down here where there's a lot of alcohol ink streaked into that water, I'm going like this on there, and it feels like I'm trying to apply, colored pencil on a piece of like plexiglass or something like that. It's too smooth. But it looks really good up here, though. It's just making this brownish tinge. It's just kind of warming it up a little bit. It looks like a richer, kind of color scheme, a little bit deeper. Like that. Let's go into a little bit more of an orangish tone. You need to look out for your mail. Oh, look out for my mail. Oh, got it, Jeannie. Huh. I shall look out. Our mail, we don't pick it up every day because we have these neighborhood mail lockers where everyone goes and gets their mail. And there's been mail theft in them. It was earlier this year. It's like the lockers were like completely like wide open with everyone's mail exposed. And it seemed like that didn't happen for a while, but then, I don't know, like over Thanksgiving, apparently our carrier could not even access the locker because someone probably tried busting into it and they like totally messed up the lock. And they haven't gotten around to kind of repairing that lock and changing it out. So we have to go down to this postal office. It's not the regular office, but it's this pickup place, postal annex, or I don't know, whatever. And we have to, give them our ID, and then they go and get our mail. But it's like happened in like, I don't know, there's like 40 mail lockers around where there's been damage to them. And it's such a hassle. I was talking to some people that were picking up. I said, "Are you here because of mail theft?" And they were like, "Yeah, And then, some of those, it just happened on all these neighborhoods, all kind of throughout this entire area. It's probably like one group of people, too, or something like that. Could be one person for all I know, or a couple people kind of working in pairs. But we hope they get caught. I don't know how you're going to catch them, but because there's not like cameras set up on those things. But anyways, I'll go and grab that mail at some point in time this week. Okay, so I'm adding in a little bit more tone right around the base of that. And see, it's like, this is going in and refining my shadows. So I don't worry about, usually I don't worry about like at any step of the process of getting really smooth applications of media. And I get it where other people are because, they're kind of used to everything kind of looking, pretty decent as you go along. You're adding colored pencils or Copic markers or something like that. But sometimes I get really kind of uneven applications of tone on my pieces and my objects and areas. But by the time you go in, so if I don't get it really kind of smooth with my dye-based inks, I know that alcohol inks are coming, and then you can do it, you can smooth it out even more with colored pencils if you want to. And, then we add in some highlights and things like that. So you're kind of burying each previous layer with other types of textures and colors. And then, the big equalizer of any of it is that white pigment ink at the end. It takes care of all my kind of like awkward types of applications, and where it really doesn't even matter anymore, because that was like whatever I didn't like of my dye-based ink application. That was like 5 steps ago, so it's like 5 layers underneath everything else. Okay, so this is still a little bit wet as I was going down here with adding a little bit of shadow around that paddle border area. I was going in here and it was like, it was streaking some of the, that impression. So again, I need to be a little bit careful about adding anything into here in terms of additional colors. But let's go in and add in some extra textures. What did you mail, Jeannie? Or is it a surprise? But speaking of that, I guess you do have, of course, your item heading up to you. I'm guessing you'll get it kind of midweek or something like that, probably. Can't wait to see what you do with it, Jeannie. With your scale of scenes that you're often doing, I think this set will come in, really handy for you. Okay, so I'm adding in this 3mm application of yellow here on my larch trees. I need to look at that right side up here. I need to get my bearings a little bit. I see those trees are starting to kind of wake up a little bit, aren't they? Just in terms of the, the sparkly kind of reflective fall, inspired lighting that we see in whatever deciduous trees like that. As I was saying that, I was like trying to figure out, I think I put my highlights of the yellow over on the right side of those trees down there. Like I said, it's not going to matter too much, but the lighting is kind of coming from right here, right? And then it gets darker going this way. So over here, I should put the highlights on the left side of that tree as opposed to the right, but I was looking at it upside down. Okay, there we go, like that. 2 pictures and a card. Cool. Are you still here, Bill? I was going to ask you, Bill. Bill's a plant guy. I was going to ask you, what you got, like your top 10 favorite plants or anything like that? Could be anything. Okay, let's put in some of these sparkly kind of tones down into our water. We're doing like colored lighting in here in the card from earlier today. I was doing, blue tones for a blue-toned nighttime scenario like that. But you can see the lighting down here, okay? And we're just working in the color scheme of the scene. So down here, my reflections, my little sparkly light, we're done in like 2 different blues, I think, and white. And here we'll work in, probably yellow and white. I don't think I'll do like another color after that. But let's see. Let's add some down here. This got pretty dark in here, so I'm a little bit hesitant initially to add in too much of this reflected kind of a dot, but I'm finding that those dots are kind of, I don't know, they're blending in, you know, pretty well into that background, I think. Even if I go, you know, fairly heavy with them in the darker areas, I think it's, you know, the imagery, whatever the color scheme and everything like that is taking the details pretty well without it looking overwhelming, I mean, you know. Okay, now this is a little bit of a darker, duller yellow here, so I can add some of that maybe into the darker areas of the tree or other trees. So we just get a little bit of a varied look to our, you know, reflected light. There, like that. I want those trees to be nice and exciting, so here's a small yellow. Let's go ahead and use that. I was thinking, I don't know if I need this, but I think I want to bring some. Okay, so these little highlights are on the trees, but I think it'd be a good idea to bring some into these grasses. The grasses around the trees. It'll just give it kind of a textural continuity. But I'll just do it in the 0.7 millimeter, the extra fine tipped pen. Okay, I need to be careful about this. This is still wet up there. All right, so I added some down here in that light. I don't know if you can see it. It's a little bit more shimmery now. Okay. This got really dark around here. I want to add in some highlights on that shoreline. Let me see if I have a good color for that. There's a couple colors that I wish, maybe this is it right here. This is beige. I always thought, I get mixed up sometimes with these paint pens. Sometimes I'm looking for like a beige or like a brown, but I'm grabbing the metallic gold instead. Okay, this one, I don't know if I've used this one before. No, I did. Okay, this fooled me. Yeah, I think that's gold right there. Yeah, that's gold. So it looks beige. That doesn't look like a gold cap right there. Okay. So I think we're gonna have to go with we'll go with like this peach tone right here. I need a light brown pen, but you think in a set of 48 colors, there would be a brown, unless the newer one has one. Let me see right here. Maybe the new set has a brown in here. It looks like a brown to me. I was seeing if it had like a color written on the side. I don't think it does. Okay. New usage here. Let's test this one out. So I don't want to go with like white highlights in there. It's like too dark of an area. Sorry, not dynamic live stream content here. Waiting for a paint pen to feed. Don't try to expedite it though, like pogo sticking it, and banging that spring into the, surface down here, it could damage your tip a little bit. But this is taking a while here. I think it's almost there. I can see it coming through there. It's got a little bit of a translucent tip. There we go. There we go. I don't know. Well, it's pretty dark there. Let's see if it shows up at all. Yeah. It's pretty dark. Maybe it'll provide like another layer. Oh, now it's getting lighter. The more kind of paint came out. It looks pretty good though. All right, so I'm getting a little bit of variation right in there, okay? I mean, it's just one of those little detailed things. See this, we have these dark trees right here and it's dark background. So those little types of touches right back in there kind of provide a little bit of separation between that shoreline, the far shore, and the foreground trees like that, okay? I'll double layer it in here. I'll come in with the, like this beige in here too. But let's go in here. We'll add it to some of these objects right here in the darkness as well. Oh. Let's do something right here. I'll just do this when the stays on here so it dries really fast. Some rocks on the shoreline right here with my tiny rocks small. I don't want to add too many around here. It would represent water that's really, really shallow. And that little paddle border needs to be, you know, in water that's deeper than like, you know, like an inch. Okay, but anyways, what I'm doing is I'm adding this in here like that. And then, so it's kind of dark on light like that, okay? And that's kind of a nice, it's a nice complement if you go in with a light element like this and you go light into dark, okay? So you have dark in the light and you have light in the dark right here. And it's kind of in a similar shape, so I'm kind of putting a little highlight on top of some of my rocks in here. We added some of this, I don't know, like this brown chocolate. It's like a milk chocolate or something like that. I can even add it down here in my water a little bit, but see that right there? These little types of highlights right up in here are similar to these ones down here. So light in the dark and dark in the light like that. It kind of balances things out. It's like that yin yang type of thing, I guess. Create a little separation between the water and the shore just by putting a little stroke of this pen like that right around this paint. And then I think this will be a good color to use on our tree trunks. Let me see, I have something that's a little bit lighter actually. Yeah, right here. This one's a little bit lighter. Let's use this one. I do like my trunks to stand out pretty good in here, so let's give that a try. Now that's already standing out right in there, but let's give it a little bit of an extra kick like that. Okay. Alright, so say it's a little bit more structure to my trees in the background like that. Let's do that on this side, right over here. I'm just kind of introducing a trunk in some of these areas. Some of them don't have an inherent one, so I just kind of go like at the base of a tree and just do a little flick right up, you know, I try to go center with it. I don't always make it, but it's usually close enough. I'll do some of these secondary branches like this. And it provides some nice detailing in here, okay? Now I'm not just doing this upside down just because these are still a little bit wet in there, but I get this better stroke like that than if I'm trying to do it like this. This isn't like a natural motion, but this is, yeah, like, you know, if you're making a check mark or something like that. Okay, so I have those. I see that shoreline's kind of coming alive a little bit more, or all these similar textures and things like that. It's getting a little bit more defined. I mean, these are little details that you don't have to do, but they're really fun to do. And you can add these in if you feel inclined or not, you know. You don't have to do that. But see this right here? Just bring in a little bit more trunk detail right there. Like about like that. I think it adds quite a bit sometimes, these little details like this, and they're really fun to add in and kind of watch develop. Okay, let's go with a little bit of a lighter toned highlights in here. I'm still being careful around in here. That's a little bit wet. Dye-based ink, I mean, it normally wouldn't stay wet for that long. You don't have to worry about it that much, but I added so many alcohol inks underneath there before stamping my imagery on the top there, so that alcohol kind of sealed off the paper where I added those strokes in there, so you're not gonna be like, you know what I mean? If I stamped that out, if I knew I was going to have those trees down there, I would have stamped it out before I started doing all this coloring. Like, you know, on Friday night, I didn't do it before. I know I was going to add it in before I started today, but I was going to bring in all these tones, and I don't want to streak, so I just figured I'd do it afterwards, and I would just have to avoid touching it, you know. Alright, I think that is it. Boy, those little highlights in that shoreline sure stand out. I guess that's one of the good things about going a little bit darker, you know, maybe. It was a little bit darker than I kind of intended to go, but I don't know, like all those little details right in here really show up pretty well. So I don't know. In those windows in there, let's bring a little bit of tone to those too. They're looking a little bit anemic, just from the fact that they're, you know, it's like the whitest thing in the scene right there. So, but let's do this. I'm gonna go like half. Let's go with the colored pencil. We'll have a little bit more control over it. Well, let's go like halfway up with some yellow in here, like this. Or you can do from, I'll go like yellow top and, or top and bottom there, like that. Maybe that looks better. This is kind of going from darker, lighter, you know, in there. So we'll go darker, lighter in the middle, like that. Okay, so a little detail like that with the windows, you know what I mean? Those windows don't stand out quite as much, but it looks like they're kind of reflecting the colors of the sky now in that glass. I was going to say, did I just put my hand like right in that? Hello, Bonnie. I paid the taxes on the house this month. I don't leave much for. I hate property taxes. Yeah, I hear you though. Okay, let me go with a little bit more tone right up here. So some of my, my inks dried up here, and they dry a little bit duller than what they look like when they're freshly applied. So I'm going to go in here and add in a little bit more tone with my pencils like this. I get it like that. Okay, look at that nice warm light like that. I have a feeling that this will probably, I think the inks have set up pretty well. So I think what you see is what you'll get, I don't think this is going to dry dull or something like that. Like I'd look at it tomorrow and it's like, oh my God, what happened to my vibrancy or anything like that? Because the alcohol inks and the colored pencils pretty much stay the same, but sometimes the dye-based inks, depending on which brand, they dry duller looking. So, but we've added so many layers in here, I think that'll be fine. Okay, so that is that. Let's go in, and you might think this is kind of like a gaudy kind of application or step in here, but I've really liked using the luminous, chunky glitter, holographic glitters with my, large trees recently. Let me see, is that the same one right here? Okay, it looks like I already have some in this, my palette right here. So I don't know how much I'll add to this. We'll just kind of start adding a little bit at a time and see what it looks like. And if we like it, we can always add more. And if we absolutely don't like it, you can always kind of remove it too. But, okay. I like using my scratch knife. It has this little point on there, and I can kind of just spear one of those little pieces of glitter. It's either that or maybe my jewel picker. Maybe the jewel picker would be better here. But precision craft glue. And let's see. Let's kind of concentrate it around right in here. Okay, like right around. This is kind of the focal point of the scene, right? Like right in here, but so I don't know if I'll add too much out here on those trees, but let's add some right in here. Now this holographic glitter, I still don't know what I really think about this at times, because I kind of want this to look, golden, of course. But here, let me put some of this out right here. I can see it better. But the holographic aspect of it, it kind of flashes like every color of the rainbow. It's dominant. It's more dominant towards whatever color it is. There's about, I don't know, whatever this pack came with, like 10 different colors, okay? But each one of them has a little, at certain angles, it'll show different colors, but it's predominant. It has a dominant color, though, within its color scheme. Okay, and this one's like, I think this one's lemon yellow. Sunset yellow. Okay. I think there might be a lemon yellow too, but anyways, I didn't know if I wanted, I didn't know if I wanted the violets and the pinks and reds and everything like that in there too, but I don't know, I think it looks okay. But here's the thing about these holographics though too. It's not necessarily like flashing it. You can't even like see it, but at certain angles, it just kind of comes to life like that, which I really like, you know. So it's, you know, glitter. When I thought about these types of things and using it, I thought it might look a little bit gaudy, you know what I mean? But for the most part, when you're looking at it, it's like this. But then you do this, and it like, it's that extra little touch. It's like the glow in the dark thing, you know. If I send this out to someone, you know, they wouldn't even think about it being glow in the dark. But if it's on like a whatever refrigerator or wherever they, you know, someone might put it, if it is on display somewhere for a little bit of time, you know, they might see it. Illuminate, you know, when they hit the lights. So it's like that one of those extra little additional touches, you know, that you've added into someone's card. Or, you know, it can just be for yourself too. It's like you know, this one little fun little I don't know, whatever aspect to the card that you can enjoy. It's like it's a multiple personality card. I don't know if it's changing emotions or anything like that. It's just like a little bit of certain emotion, and then it's like, you know, a little bit stronger. Yeah, I don't think it's going from like sad to happy or something like that. Okay, I need to wash off my jewel picker. It's like got glue all over it on the tip or something. Okay, by the way, I'm adding it to the trees that are a little bit more illuminated. I'm not adding it like in this dark one. I don't know, maybe you could. Maybe I can add like a, I never thought about it, but I guess I can add like a different color to the darker ones. There's like violet. You got every color, the, you know, spectrum in these packs of these types of glitters. All right. Oh, and so I put these little dots of glue down on here, and I'm just like, I don't know, it's like surgically applying this. I've tried to sprinkle it on here before, you know, just put like dots, and then I sprinkle some of this down here like that. It didn't look good because it would like be clustered, or there'd be two, like three pieces of glitter stuck to one like dot of glue, you know. And it looked real kind of awkward looking, so I've just been doing it, you know, one by one like that. So anyways, you got it like that. Okay, it's kind of subtle, but then, you know, you get that kind of coming alive like that. And of course I've done this in other live streams like this, but if someone hasn't seen that before. Okay, so let's do this. Let's do a few more out here. I'll kind of concentrate it a little bit more in that area. So maybe out here. We'll just go for a kind of a few pieces maybe. Less concentration of it in the darker areas. I would add that all along there and just start applying it, but by the time I get from one side to the next, a lot of times my glue is already kind of dry, or it's so dry that I can't spot where it is because it's not like a raised little, you know, dab of glue anymore. It's kind of like settling in and whatever, evaporating, I guess. I can't even tell where I've added it anymore. Okay, let's see. All right. Look at that. It flashes at different times too, depending on where that is like that. So it's not like, okay, that's like all of it together like that at that angle. But for the most part, it's kind of like, it's like Christmas lights or something like that, huh? Did I add some? Okay, sorry, yeah. This one wasn't even this one wasn't even lighting up. It's like, is that string of lights broken? Okay, here, a couple more. These really tiny trees. So it's like, here, 7 more pieces like that. If you didn't have these right in here kind of illuminated, it'd be kind of interesting to do that down here in the water. If I did it down here in the water, I don't think I'd put it in the trees. I think that would just be too much. Unless you're just going for a big, kind of glittery statement, then, use it as stars and everything everywhere. But I think it would be kind of cool to do like a sunset scene, and then I don't know, maybe you can have a sun or something like that up here, or it can just be like this, but you can do like a passageway of like glittery, shimmery light, and I think that would look really great around her. I don't know how to do it. Maybe like little rows or something like that, like striations of, that glitter in there, and it'd be like really sparkly around like a paddle boarder or some kind of kayaker or something like that in the water. All right, let's see what this looks like. I can't even see what this is looking like because when I apply it, it's not like flashing and glittery. So sometimes it's hard to tell when you're applying this just what it's going to look like because any kind of those reflectives, the foils and things like that. All right, I can't find the top for this anywhere. Oh, here it is. Okay, let's take a look here and see. Let's go this here. We'll do this. We'll do it on this axis right here. Look at these ones aren't even flashing over here. Let's see. Let's get them into the action like that. Look at that. It's right side illuminated like that. Now this one's like, I was going to say now it's left side. Okay, here they're coming alive like that. So anyways, yeah, there we go. The trees are alive. Okay, so that being said, about the water, I'm looking at this down here. There's so much flash up here in the trees. I think it'd be a good idea to go down in this water area and to give it a little bit more kind of sparkly contrast. In the previous video live stream today, we used some silver down in here. Wait, okay, now where did that gold one go? I probably just lost it here. This was the brown. This is a gold Artistro. I don't think you'll be able to see this on screen, although Bill was able to see it earlier. He said he could see the gold, but I'll put in some of this golden little acrylic paint pen touches right down in here. Is that still wet? Okay, but then I'll hit it with a little bit more contrast with the white. Look how light that is right there. Isn't that crazy? Okay, let's see. High property taxes are so necessary, said no one ever. Well, one of the good things about California, everyone's always talking about California and kind of the cost of living, which that's true, like gas and everything like that. But, California is Prop 13, so, you're paying taxes based on, the amount that you purchased the house for. So that was so people, that have been living in their houses for, 30, 40 years, they're not getting priced out. But I think they can add, I forgot what percentage they can add on. Is it 5% a year or something like that? They can increase it, so it's not exactly the price that you bought it for. But yeah, that's one good thing I'm glad about. Okay, so I'm adding kind of this little shimmering light down here. I don't know if you can see it. It's fairly light down there, so I don't know if you can even... And then I don't know if... okay, you can't see that gold. Let me see if I can. Okay, I can see the gold in there. The gold is kind of coming alive a little bit down here. It's kind of light down here, so you can't really see it too much. Let's add in a little bit of finishing touches. I almost completely forgot about this because that glitter dazzles me. But let's add in a little bit of this white pigment ink down here for a little bit of a tonal, textural kind of changes in here. Glad you like it, Jeannie. I can see this type of scenario right here is one of your kind of wintry types of scenes with all that kind of movement going up in the sky, you know. Okay, white pigment ink. This is really golden in here. I didn't really retain a whole lot of that white of the paper. So let's see if it takes it pretty well. Well, some of that light kind of coming through those trees right up in there. I'm going right over some of my glitter right in there. Like that. It's looking pretty decent, I think. See this like area right in here. One of the things that this does is it kind of, when you do something like, it's a little bit too much. When you bring in some of this, I've mentioned this before a lot of times, but if you bring in this kind of, this type of element like this little texturing like that, it kind of nestles things in this soft light, I guess it is, you know, because it's supposed to be like mist and it's being illuminated by lighting. So it kind of makes things, you know, kind of, you're enveloping something in this softness. And that is kind of a nice kind of kinesthetic touch to pieces. You don't do too much of it, but it's that whole kind of, you know, sense of touch added to a piece. So everything is largely visual in here, but then you add that and it becomes about kind of touch. And I think touch is kind of, you know, it's about feeling, and that's where you get kind of this little bit of a, it's a quick way to kind of express, you know, like an emotional whatever element in your visuals here. Okay, I found a little place up here that was still a little bit light, so I'm adding a little bit back in there. You know, just by simply, I left it light, you know, I wasn't thinking about, because, you know, I want to add mist into it, but just adding a little back there, it kind of provides a little bit of a glow. I want to add some of it down here, but I think that she is a little bit more, you know, wet the impression still, so I'm not going to do that this one. I'll spray seal this off with the Krylon workable fixative, and then I can go back and add more of this accordingly if I want to, without worrying about kind of smudging some of these impressions right in here. All right, I think that'll, yeah, I was going to say, let me go a little bit more. Does anyone paddleboard here? I didn't know anyone that said they paddleboarded, but sometimes when I'd be teaching workshops around the country, I did run across a lot of people who kayaked I would say a lot of people, but relatively speaking. I was in Washington teaching in Paulsbo, and I think there were one or two people that, you know, took kayaks out after work, during the summers. And then when I was in Rome, New York, right around in that Adirondack area, yeah, there are several people in my class that said, yeah, they take a, they have a kayak and they go out after work sometime. Super scenic. You'd see like cabins like this and shorelines with, you know, little cozy little cabins on them, nestled in the trees just like this. And it was like everywhere up there. I think it was like a Trivial Pursuit question. It was one of those things like, what state has the most lakes? And everyone kind of immediately thinks of Minnesota with that license plate. But I think the answer was, I don't know, it was like, it might have been New York or something like that, that upstate New York, in that Adirondack area. Was it like Placid? You know what I mean? It was really phenomenal. I don't know if that was the answer, but there was a bunch of them up there. But I got a couple glitters up there. All right, so here's the piece right here. There it is, kind of dormant like that in terms of reflective light. And then we come into the glitters like that. And they're really nice. Those are really fun to use. I did a piece fairly recently. Loose glitter. As a reflection card with gold and reflection down here, and those bits of glitter like that were really fun flashing in that water area. Let me see. Here it is right here. So here it is like that. Here's the glitter. Okay, there it is. The glitter's like that. But, when I hold it like this, but look at that. That flashing light in the water really is nice. Because all your effort's up top like that. You put all that effort into putting all that glitter down like that. And here, you get it duplicated like that. So it's like you get twice the results for, the same amount of work like that when you have this kind of mirrored element like that. So anyway, reflection cards get double your efforts for the same money. All right. The golden hour. So like photographers refer to that golden hour as that golden era between, it's like before, I don't know if it's before sunset. I think it's like sunset and twilight in there where you get all those really great colors. I'm just going to hold this like this so you can see. I can find the angle where it's like flashing like that the most. Those will get sprayed off, spray sealed, and we'll get a lot. These tones on here and in the water will get a little bit deeper and richer when I spray seal it. And then we'll get this mounted up and this card will be done. Let's see here. Love that barely arts glue. Yeah, so military mom, I was in need of some glue at some point in time, and the people like here in the chat, I think, told me about which one to get. So I've been really happy with it. God, this thing's really heavy. I don't use it like, to glue like huge areas, but I don't know. It seems like this thing's like absolutely full still. And I've been using it now for about 2 years. I was due for some new glue. I'd been using like the same bottle for years. I hardly ever use glue for anything, but I started doing like glitters and things like that. So I've been real happy with it too. And I needed a more aggressive one. I got it because I needed a glue for the crystals that I was applying. So the glue that I was using at the time wasn't, it was strong enough, but I had to add a bigger dollop of it. And it wasn't as like precision without that you know, that fine tip there, so I really like that tip there. But yeah, I was a little bit surprised at the price of the glue. I thought, what, you know, did glue go up in price? You know, that seems like more than Elmer's. Okay, but yeah, really happy with it. If I use this glue at the rate that I'm using it to, you know, it's going to last me like 20 years, I think. I don't know. It's like maybe not that long, but you know, it's going at a very slow rate of usage here. Again, by the way, I use it. See this right here? It's my trunks got a little bit as it dried. My trunks and branches got a little bit darker because it dried and it kind of it blended with the background a little bit more. So let me bring out those trunks a little bit more again. Yeah, those trunks are a little bit more alive again, huh? Now that white will probably get a little bit darker, so it kind of sits into the scene a little bit more and harmonizes with that background. But yeah, I don't know. Kind of brings all that structuring of those trees. It is better defined like that. So if you have gel pens or paint pens, give it a try on your trees sometime like that, especially with the deciduous ones. All right, let's see here. They don't ship once the temps go below 40 degrees. Good thing I have a 16-ounce bottle. Got it. Oh, that's interesting, Bonnie. I thought, what's Bonnie talking about? But yeah. I think I seem to recall that was something. Or maybe it was something else someone was telling me about, but I forgot about that aspect of it. Jeannie, you live 10 minutes from Paulsbo. Yeah, there used to be a stamp store in Paulsbo there. And it was the same one. They had 3 stores, I think, at one point in time. And, but that was their first store in Paulsbo. And it was in this little kind of area. Well, I got to think that, you know, the main drag is probably that Paulsbo area. Where there's shopping, but it was in this little upstairs area, you know, so they had to put one of those like signs out front on the sidewalk that pointed to that upstairs area, and you kind of went in this little narrow stairway up into that store. But that was their store there. I think they had another one in Everett or something like that. But fun times like that. I told the guy, you know, that it was a brother and sister that ran that store. And they were originally from Southern Cal, but I think they both worked for like the warehouse record stores or something like that. I like those little glitters on there. But yeah, they started that store up there in the 90s, I think it was. But I had him come and pick me up because I didn't want to have to navigate that ferry system up there, just driving up there, not knowing how it kind of works pre-internet too. Anyway, that's what I think about when I think about Paulsbo. Come pick me up at the airport. I want to, I don't know what the process of getting on those ferries is and getting the right one. All right, folks, the golden hour scene here using nature set number 14 and 35 there with that the cozy cabin in there. Pretty simple scene. I think this is one object in there. I think I just used that. Gosh, that's the dominant image right here. It's right here. It's right here, 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 and here. So it's like stamped 4 times. The cabin is right here, and then I think I used a little bit of this one right in here. And then we have a little bit of background trees going in there, but for the most part on this half-page scene, it's not too many different images in there. So you can really come up with some you know, a decent amount of variety just using like one stamp because of those trees in there. So you can do the like different colored trees too. I've seen these large trees, like photographs of them where some of them are like yellow, and then some of them, the background in that same little whatever ecosystem or area, they were like orange. So you can come up with a lot of different color schemes in them too. Some of them, I've seen these trees too where they're bright red. Yeah, it was really amazing. The color variation in those, whatever, what do you call them? Deciduous conifers or something like that. But yeah, really fun to do. Art glitter. Okay, let's see. There were two different glues that people told me about. And I think I asked my wife or something like that, and she said they're the same thing or something like that, you know, or basically the same in terms of the quality. I can't remember if it was the or you're saying the glitter just in general. I haven't tried. I use the art glitter as a glue then, Bonnie. Set 41, Kevin. Oh yeah, sorry, 41. Set 41, not 14. Thanks, Bonnie. All right, anyway, I look forward to getting this one sealed off and mounted here and kind of framed off. Maybe I'll use some, oh, maybe I'll use some gold paper. This one I use the silver, but the gold one I think would look really good on there. So it's like golden light, golden glitter, golden, I don't know, would that be too much? It'd be in theme. It'd either be in theme and look good, or it's like too much. Where we go with something like, you know, more muted or something like that to make that stand out. We'll see what looks best. I have a ton of gold and cardstock though, so I'll probably use that. Thanks for watching, everyone. And look forward to seeing you in the next scene. I think I want to do one of my reflection cards using one of those bases that we kind of formatted in the Friday Night Live one. Maybe something like this right here. Okay, so I just need to address this a little bit in here. And I think this is just an area that I'm going to stamp a quote into. I might do a little bit of a moon or something like that in here. So I don't know. We were talking about it in the live stream the other night, but I don't know. This one will be a simple, you know, simple finishing touches type of card in here, I think. So it's a little bit more minimalist, but you know, we have that whole dynamic with the reflection area down there. So that makes it pretty exciting as a finished result. Okay, folks, let's see. All right, folks, hope you have a great rest of evening or day, whatever time it is for you, and look forward to seeing you on the next live.